This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Well, here we go. After a cooler start to kick off the summer, we are ramping up this week with a major warm-up going on right into the 4th of July holiday weekend. In fact, in San Francisco, that June gloom that's been hovering will finally clear up. And in Contra Costa County, we could see temps in the high 90s, but with grasses now dry and thicker because of the winter rains, there is some concern among firefighters. So let's get to Paul Hagan now with more on this warm-up right before a big holiday.
Yeah, just in time for the end of June and beginning of July. Temperatures are actually going to feel summer-like. So let's start off with the 4th of July weekend forecast, and we'll actually go beyond the 7-day outlook. That only takes us through Monday, but we want to show you the 4th of July forecast next Tuesday. And it's going to be hot inland. Temperatures will be at their hottest on Saturday, coasting down slightly as we head through the 4-day weekend. A lot of folks taking Monday off as well since the holiday falls on Tuesday. But the coolest day on the 4th of July just brings us back to near average temperatures inland, mostly in the mid-80s. Around the bay, it's going to be mild. Not going to have that heat that inland parts of the Bay Area are going to experience. We're not going to completely lose the onshore influence. So 70s around the bay with 60s along the coast. Now, if you're going to try to beat the heat by heading up into the Sierra or heading towards Tahoe, the temperature is going to be toasty up there as well, into the mid-80s for highs both Saturday and Sunday. Lots of sunshine throughout the holiday weekend. So the rate at which the snowpack, which is still up there in abundance at the higher elevations, that's going to be melting at a faster rate as we see those temperatures really spiking as we head into the first weekend of July. So it's something we'll keep an eye on as we monitor, of course, our temperatures around the Bay Area over the next several days.
All right, thank you. And of course, it doesn't help that 4th of July is just around the corner, which means illegal fireworks are more frequent. And as Devin Feely tells us, some residents in San Jose are getting increasingly nervous.
Just a few weeks ago, you might have seen a trace of green lingering in these hillsides, but not now. And the dry conditions out here, coupled with the hot weather we're expecting later in the week, have people in this community pretty concerned. Fire season announced its arrival with a pair of small grass fires last week, and the upcoming 4th of July holiday has Michael Seabury on edge.
In my neighborhood, fireworks go off all the time.
Seabury says even one errant firework, if it were to land in the dry grass on San Jose's Communication Hill, could do tremendous damage. And he says fireworks near his home have been a perennial problem.
It's gone off to wee hours in the morning, whatever like that. You know, I just try to stay alert and work with what I can work with within myself.
CAL FIRE says the timing of this year's fire season was affected by all of the wet weather we had this winter. But on the flip side, more rain means more grass and more fuel now that we're entering the heart of the summer months.
Our hillsides are green, and they have almost a super feel, if you will, where there's a large amount of vegetation on those hillsides. But as we reach these higher temperatures and lower humidities, those lush patches of vegetation are actually drying up quite rapidly.
CAL FIRE is planning to staff up for the holiday weekend. They're also encouraging home and business owners to take precautions now to minimize their fire risk.
We truly want to get the word out to our citizens of the state and encourage them to make sure that they reduce those hazardous fuels that are around their properties, around their homes.
Michael says he's taken all of the proper precautions and just wishes something more could be done to discourage his neighbors from using fireworks in the first place.
They're illegal. You can hear them. I mean, they're shaking the windows and stuff like that. And people, like I said, they're going to find them. They're going to do whatever they do. The firefighting efforts over the 4th of July weekend will be a combination of cities and counties and the state. But all of those agencies would certainly welcome a call if you see someone setting off a firework in an area where they're illegal or just using them in a manner that's unsafe.
In San Jose, all fireworks, even safe and sane ones, are considered illegal. The city has even set up a website where people can report them. And those caught setting off fireworks could face a fine of $1,000. Spectators could also be held responsible, as well as party hosts. Contra Costa County is also trying to get the word out about the firework dangers with this public service announcement featuring a man who was seriously injured last year.
I lit the firework and it blew off my hand into five different locations. Due to that, they had to amputate most of my fingers, and they took skin off of my bicep to help close the wound on my hand, and they also amputated part of one of my fingers on my right hand.
That's quite a message. Safety advocates say 74% of firework injuries happen in the weeks before and after the 4th of July. Well, here's a terrifying moment for a commuter on Interstate 280. San Francisco police are now investigating a shooting that happened just before 2 o'clock today. In fact, take a look at the victim's car. Her window shot out. We spoke to a woman driving who says she was cut off by another driver. And after she honked at him, he pulled a gun and shot at her back window. This happened on northbound 280. That's just south of the 101. The victim was able to exit off the highway and call for help.
I beeped at the person and I assumed they did not like it, and they shot in the back of my car. I assumed they were trying to shoot at me. Still kind of shaking, to be honest with you.
Police are still looking for the suspect. All right, BART and other transit agencies have been warning of a steep fiscal cliff, and now lawmakers have a new proposal to support it and stave off drastic service cuts. So here's what they want to do. They want drivers to help foot the bill with temporary hikes to bridge tolls. If it passes, drivers would pay an extra $1.50 for 5 years, starting this January and ending in 2028. It would apply to every bridge in the Bay except the Golden Gate Bridge. Those behind the proposal, namely State Senator Scott Wiener, say it could yield roughly $900 million for transit, keeping BART afloat until voters have the chance to adopt a long-term, sustainable budget solution.
This is so important for our future. Transit is not optional.
So there are still multiple hurdles before the toll hike becomes a reality. There's also an already growing opposition at the state level, and some drivers feel left out of the consideration.
Well, I think there needs to be a conversation, especially including those who have to do the commute.
We should note drivers will already pay an extra $1 on tolls starting in 2025 as part of a voter-approved hike from 2018. So with Bay Area transit agencies still suffering, many are coming up with new ways to lure riders back. Caltrain, for example, has decided to hold off on a fare increase that was supposed to go into effect next month. It also just wrapped up a survey to see if riders would like to see service expanded in the South Bay. So our Max Darrow rode along with one man who actually welcomes more options.
As Bay Area transit operators continue to try and recover ridership lost during the pandemic, we often hear about the potential for service cuts. But Caltrain is exploring adding service in the South Bay.
Sitting at the Tamian station in San Jose, John Allen is on the final leg of his commute home from San Mateo to South San Jose. He rides Caltrain 3 days a week, but if he gets a late start in the morning, the nature of his commute drastically changes.
Oh man, all the time. Yeah. What happens then? Well, you gotta drive.
Because of where Allen lives, there are only 3 trains that'll get him to work in the morning, departing between 6:20 and 7:20 a.m., and 3 that'll get him home in the evening, departing between 4:30 and 6:40 p.m. But Allen may soon have a bit more flexibility. Caltrain is exploring adding a 4th daily round trip to and from southern Santa Clara County, as well as adjusting arrival and departure times for those trains. There are 5 stops here: Capitol, Blossom Hill, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy.
Hopefully later. Hopefully they wouldn't add it earlier.
Though Caltrain's overall passenger demand is still down, with an average weekday ridership of around 18,600 passengers compared to around 60,000 pre-pandemic, Caltrain's Dan Lieberman says there is a lot of potential demand coming out of southern Santa Clara County.
It's a fast-growing community. There's a lot of people heading out there with a lot of transportation needs. What Caltrain riders want is what all transit riders want. They want increased frequency and better reliability. Providing an additional route heading down to Gilroy will provide both of those things.
He says more options would mean more flexibility, which could help get more people on trains.
If you don't have a commute that fits your needs, you're not going to get on the train. So making sure we can increase that service and make sure that people have more options to get on board is just the best way to make it easier for people to take a ride with us.
Despite diminished ridership, Caltrain is running 104 trains a day, says Lieberman.
We've still gotten a good deal of support, both from Measure RR, which was passed by the voters in 2020, and from Sacramento and Washington, D.C., making sure we can keep operating.
This isn't a done deal yet. Caltrain just finished surveying passengers.
Discussion will take place over the summer, and we should be ready to implement by the fall.
The sooner the better, says Allen.
I think it would just give me more options, right? That makes the life a lot easier when you can adjust your schedule to a couple of the different options that you're given.
With that, Allen has another commute behind him and the prospect of a more flexible one ahead.
Sea otters might be returning to Northern California waters for the first time since the 19th century. Wildlife officials, they're planning 2 forums in Marin County this week. They are so cute, to discuss reintroducing sea otters to the San Francisco Bay. Researchers say it could bring benefits to the local ecosystem and tourism, along with spurring overall sea otter population growth. I'm all for that. They're just hanging out. Life is good. Thanks so much for watching. The news continues streaming on CBS News Bay Area. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock. Have a good one.